All right, good morning. There you go. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Beautiful day out.
And Diane's back.
Yep, she is, huh? That's great, isn't it?
Yes.
That's right, give her a hand. We're happy to have her. So I just want to report out to on our closed session this morning. We have pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, 2 cases. Dennis Ponte versus County of Calaveras et al., Calaveras County Superior Court, case number 12CV38597. County of Calaveras versus Ross Thornton et al., El Dorado Superior Court, case number SC20150086, and there was no action taken. Also, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, personnel matter, conference with labor negotiator Judy Hawkins, Deputy County Administrative Officer, Human Resources and Risk Management are regarding Human Resources Sheriff's Management Unit, SMU, and Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association, which is the CCPSEA, and Service Employees International Union, SEIU, negotiation, and also no action taken. So,
Chair, I'd just like to make note on item number 1, I was not present.
okay, so Debbie stepped out on that one. So could we stand for the pledge, please? I believe. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first we have any announcements by the board? Okay.
I'd just like to draw your attention to the agenda. You'll notice on the regular agenda, there are 2 number 9s. They are a duplicate. There is no number 10. So that we only talk about number 9 once, and we won't be talking about number 10.
And originally scheduled for today would have been the mid-year report that has been postponed until the March 8th meeting.
That mid-year report. So, we have recognition and acknowledgements, and we have a proclamation for Behavioral Health Services Mental Health Program. So we're going to adopt a proclamation honoring Dr. Robert K. Mueller, MD, for his 8 years of service as county psychiatrist and congratulating him on his retirement. And that's not all. We actually have a proclamation.
Yes, you do, Dr. Mueller.
Good morning. It is. You're carbon today. Thank you. So today we have Dr. Robert Mueller. Whereas Dr. Mueller began his career with the County of Calaveras as a psychiatrist on December 10, 2007. Eyesight. Mine is also. Whereas throughout California, as part of the Mental Health Services Act, a shift from the medical treatment model to the wellness and recovery model became the new standard of service provision for consumers of mental health services. And whereas Dr. Mueller has been a major force in leading the charge to effect a culture change of how mental health services are provided in Calaveras County, from mental illness focus to a mind health focused atmosphere. treating individuals as people rather than patients. And whereas Dr. Mollard has consistently been supportive of the staff, provided words of encouragement, and viewed problems as opportunities while taking every chance to coach them. Whereas Dr. Muller's top priority has been delivering quality consumer care while demonstrating a high degree of integrity, challenge, and drive. And whereas consumers of mental health services and staff alike have expressed how grateful they are for the dedicated and genuine care Dr. Muller provided to everyone he worked with and for, and how much he will be missed. And therefore, be claimed that Board of Supervisors County of Calaveras, the 23rd day of February 2016, do hereby honor and recognize Dr. Robert K. Muller, MD, for his years of service and express their appreciation to Dr. Muller for his loyalty and leadership to the County of Calaveras, and wish him much happiness as he begins this new chapter in life. And I would like to call for a
So moved.
I have a motion by Supervisor Pond. Second. Second by Supervisor Wright. Can I have public comment, please? No public comment? Yes.
Good morning. George Fry. As an Army veteran and having PTSD, I have had the pleasure of having Dr. Mullert as my psychiatrist. I think Dr. Mullert is really an outstanding doctor. I was selected to be on the committee to interview Dr. Mullert, and at the end of the interview, when he walked out of the interview room, I asked him to please take the position, and he did, obviously. And he's really good with people, and I'm sad that he's retiring, and I asked him what he was going to do. He said he thinks he's going to go back to Florida, get a boat, and spend the rest of his life on the boat.
At least 8 years, right? At least 8 years.
Yeah. And I would like to beg your indulgence to share the story of when you were in the emergency room and somebody famous in our country came to your emergency room. You remember that story?
Yes, sir.
Would you share it with this room?
This was many years ago. George H.W. Bush was in Naples, Florida for a speaking engagement. He was at one of our hotels and he became ill and became in the emergency room. I had to be on duty. So it wasn't like I was chosen. But he had a heart problem and he was ill and we took care of him, got him in the hospital. And he did well. And the next day, they were going to bring a medical jet down and take him back to Houston. He refused that. And he said he wanted to go on a private plane. And they said, okay, but you have to take a doctor with you. Well, the only one he knew was me. And we had some commonality. We were talking about tennis. One was in there with his heart problem. So I worked all night, and I get this call that I was going to be going to Houston that day. So that's how I spent the next day, visiting with H.W. Bush. Interesting experience.
Pretty cool.
Very good. Well, can I have a motion, or whatever it is, can I have a vote please on the proclamation?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Cliff. Good morning, John Lawless, Mental Health Director and Deputy Director of Health and Human Services. When I came here a year and a half ago, Dr. Mullert had been well established in Calaveras County, and I didn't really know how to take him because most doctors you encounter are very standoffish and very prideful. And when I met Dr. Mullert, he was very personable, very easy to talk to and get along with. And I just want to say, Dr. Mullert, you're one in a million, and we are really going to miss you and appreciate all the good service you've provided while you've been here. Thank you.
Good morning, Rosemary Wilson. I'm also a member of the Mental Health Advisory Board, and although I should not be speaking on their part, I think Dr. Mullett has really provided a fantastic service whilst he's been here. We've accomplished an awful lot in terms of the Mental Health Services Act and various programs, and although I understand from John Lawless that he's tried to keep you here, I do understand why life on a boat off of Miami might be preferable, especially in cold weather, but we are going to miss you. Thank you for what you've done in Calaveras County.
Okay, any other public comments? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you, sir, for your 8 years of service here. And, I'm absolutely sure that you did a lot of good around here. It was a lot of work, I know. And here's your proclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for Calaveras County and people who made it work. And thank you for John and Mary, our directors. This has been an interesting journey. It's been about 50 years. Starting when I was 17 and heading off to college to be an engineer as a little squirrely guy. 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 42 years of medicine. It's been a 50-year ride, and I've enjoyed every part of it. The 28 years in the emergency room, 14 in psychiatry, very interesting contrast. Before I say anything about that, there's only one person on the planet who was here for almost 50 years with me, and that's all I've done. Take that back. There were 4 weeks in there where she wasn't with me, and that's when I accepted a gig in Argentina to climb a mountain and be a doctor on a mountain, and she refused to go. But other than that, she's been there every day, and every week, and every month, every year. This is her family. You see them there in the corner. Great work family. Care about the clients, case managers, therapists, crisis workers, fiscal people, clerical people. They make it possible that I just come in and go to work and see patients. I spend less than 1% of my time doing anything other than seeing patients and doing what we can at home. So that is a treat for me. What else can I say? The thing that kind of makes it work, at least it made it work for me, is care. You care about these people, and I have people come up and ask me how you can possibly work with the population. If you care about people, it kind of flows pretty easy. If you don't care, it becomes drudgery, like cracking rocks. So I learned a lot about caring from Lynn, my Italian mom, and other people along the way. So I do care about these people. I do care about my work family. And that just makes it easy. I don't know what I'm going to care about the next 20 years, but I gotta find something. You're both. Lastly, I like mantras. I'm a mantra person. Marketers use mantras to focus your mind. And that's why you know what I mean when I say Coke is it. Or just do it. Those are mantras. There's one mantra that every single one of my caseload clients have heard, and that is, as you think, so shall you be. And I, of course, didn't come up with that. That came out of the Bible. As you think, so shall you be. If you think sad, world's a terrible place, I'm a bad person, you're going to have depression. If you think fear, you'll have anxiety. So you have some control how you feel by controlling how you think. And my favorite mantra, which I say to myself every day, is only one life to live, which soon will pass. Only what's done with love will last.
All right, so who's going to follow that act? Okay, so we'll move on to public comment. Public comment will be, how many people plan on speaking at public comment today? One? Two? Okay. We'll do 5 minutes. Any item of interest to public comment that is within subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the regular agenda. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued at the conclusion of the consent agenda in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of the comments to be heard. So, public comment, please.
Since somebody twisted my arm, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for that meeting at the town hall.
Could you identify yourself there, Mr. Reyes?
I'm from the 5th District. My name is Peter Reyes. In a town close to me is Jenny Lynn. I want to thank you folks. It was a long day for you, and you earned your keep. And I appreciate the patience and understanding and compassion what you folks had to go through. I give my sympathy to all 5 of you because all the hard work you folks did, those idiots up in Sacramento, there's a lot of mentally challenged folks up there. A lot of mentally because it's going to go on a ballot. They come up with different stories, different arguments, different rules, different regulations. They bring in something Friday as an emergency, and Monday it's changed. So you got my full sympathy for it. And I hope you didn't make too many enemies. I just made some friends because you did take the patience and politeness to everybody who was speaking over there. So I want to thank you on it. So thank you muchly, folks. You and your keep. I know you guys had fun a minute. Or what, 10, 12 hours meeting? Well, today you guys got a break. You only have a 300-page agenda item. Congratulations. It's good to be in a room with a whole bunch of geniuses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Edson, members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm Nick Baptista, the co-owner of the Valley Springs News, and I just want to address one of the items that was brought up during public comments last week. As Peter Reyes mentioned at the February 16th board meeting, the last time the county solicited bids for the printing of legal notices was back in 2011, January 6, 2011 to be specific. The contract was for 1 year, automatically renewable for 2 years unless the county gave 30-day notice prior to approval. Given that information, I would say the contract and auto renewals should have expired sometime in 2014. In the meantime, I have not received notification of an invitation to bid for a new contract. As co-owner of one of 2 newspapers of general circulation in Calaveras County, qualified and adjudicated to print the legal notices. I look forward to the county reopening the competitive process and the opportunity to submit a bid to handle the county's legal advertising and public notice requirements. Thank you very much for your consideration. A little bit of background, the Valley Springs News has been in operation for 33 years. This past Friday night, we had an open house celebrating our anniversary. We print private legal notices for fictitious business names. We've also printed public legal notices. Calco Fire prints their legal notices in our paper, along with Jenny Lynn Veterans Memorial Hall and Valley Springs Public Utility District. We also have in-house printing and do a lot of the newspapers or newsletters for the VFW, American Legion, Calaveras High School, and Toyon Middle School. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
I too would like to see the bidding process reopened for the Valley Springs News to have the opportunity to bid on the legal notices. I write a column, the Veterans Corner, in the newspaper. I appreciate the fact that the two owners give me that opportunity to share information. The Veterans Corner this coming Friday is, the article I've written gives a complete overview of the 17-18 country's budget for veterans. So I would hope that you would purchase it in the newspaper and read the budget. It's a thorough accounting of what the VA is asking for. The second item has to do with the American Legion Boys State. Thus far, we have interviewed 11th grade boys from two high schools, Linden High School and Calaveras High School. The caliber is second to none. And we have selected 2 boys and 2 alternates, from 2 boys at each high school and 2 alternates. And 6 candidates that came out of both of those schools, we could have selected all 6 of them. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. And one of the boys we selected out of Linden, he is the 3rd brother over the years that's been selected for Boys State. This coming week, we will be going to Bret Harte to select 2 more candidates and an alternate. And once again, I would ask that the board members consider giving a donation for Boys State. I'm not asking you to give $330 for each boy. If you could possibly write a check for $50 or $25 towards the cost for our American Legion post to send these boys to Boys State, it would be greatly appreciated. I thank you for that. And once again, I would like to thank Supervisor Edson and Supervisor Kearney for continuing to come to our events at Post 102 in Valley Springs. And additionally, I'd like to thank Supervisor Edson for his generous monetary donation to the young folks at our crab feed who worked to serve meals to everybody. So thank you very much and have a great day.
Thanks.
Good morning, Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. I'm not representing the IHSS committee today, but I did distribute a copy of the newsletter to each of all of you and a few to the audience, and if there's anybody that would like a copy, there's a pile under here. Just to let you know that we finally have a full membership, and we look forward to a really productive year this year, and we have a presentation scheduled for next month, and we hope to have some successful reports to give you at that time. So thank you.
Okay, any other public comments?
Good morning, Bill McManus, the Calaveras Project. I'd also like to address, refer back to the meeting of last week, considering the information that was being talked about for the new ordinances that are being drawn up. In a lot of that, there was some chaos. The microphones weren't that great. Voices were back and forth. It was a little hard to tell what was going on with the board. In some cases, there was misinformation. In some cases, there was bad information. In some cases, it may have even been qualified as a lie. So what I'd like to do between now and the time that the draft ordinance is being pulled up is try to address some of these issues. Of course, the big lie, in my opinion, is that smoking marijuana is medicine. But the jug of Kool-Aid appears to be empty, so there's no sense going over that topic right now. At the meeting, during the chaotic conversations, one voice was heard above others when it came to manufacturing, and that was Supervisor Ponte, who seemed to want to characterize manufacturing as being a bakery, and made the comment a couple times. That's not exactly true, and instead evokes a vision of your grandmother in the kitchen baking cookies and yummy muffins for all the boys and girls. I think it's neat to know what the manufacturing is all about. Rather than being grandma's kitchen, this is more like a factory for rocket fuel. Depending on the method that's used and the license, the end result is to produce highly concentrated THC for a use in a variety of ways. In the volatile solvent category, we have chemicals like butane, propane, toluene, 100% isopropyl alcohol, denatured alcohol, serline, acetone, and Everclear. These are hardly the ingredients you would find in Grandma's Betty Crocker cookbook. For further definition on these and maybe some explanation, I would refer you to AB 266, section 19300.5, paragraph Y, and also to AB 266, section 19341, paragraphs A and B. These are not bakeries, and I hope that the board, and I'm sure the board, will consider exactly what's going on in these facilities. In the past, one supervisor has asked me about hash oil and what is entailed in it, and that was Supervisor Kearney. What I did was give him a printout that describes the three methods for producing hash oil. No one else has asked for it. I have copies should someone want one, or I can give you the website where you can get it yourself. So I hope that as we move forward, that we get away from the hysteria and the misinformation and concentrate on what is really going on with the marijuana ordinance. Thank you for your time.
All right, any other public comments? Okay, well, we got one?
I got one.
All right.
Good morning, Kaz Tomaszewski, Executive Director of the Calaveras Cannabis Alliance. To address the issue of manufacturing and how it is defined, the important thing to remember is that there is two classes of manufacturing, non-volatile and volatile. The volatile class of manufacturing does involve dangerous compounds that are caustic and or explosive. However, they are used in ways that are well established in other industries, such as botanical extractions. The standards of storage and usage of these chemicals is nothing different than what you'd find in a gas station or a foundry or in a botanical extraction facility, which exists already in the country. However, the non-volatile manufacturing are things as simple as shaking a mesh bag, and they do involve mom and pop bakeries, and those things we do consider to be more benign. So while there is potential for danger in there, there is an important distinction to be made, one that is laid out by the state in those two classes of manufacturing, and we do believe they should be treated differently. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, any other public comments? All right, let's move on to a regular agenda. Agenda item number 4, Administrative Office.
What you have before you today, Board, is the introduction after a waiving of reading requirements of an ordinance relating to fire mitigation fees. This came to our office basically last summer. Calaveras Consolidated Fire District Board had conducted a public hearing and approved certain fire impact fees for residential and non-residential development. They then brought that request to the county for adoption. And not knowing a whole lot about fire impact mitigation fees, I had some conversations with county council and brought in the planning director, Peter Maurer, because I really wasn't sure or what it entailed. And then we had final budget, we had a fire, and it took a little while to get back to looking at this. But since then, the staff has been working to craft a necessary ordinance that would have to be in place for the board to review today in order to move forward with fire district impact fees. The ordinance has been set up such that a fire district who wants to institute such a fee must pass a resolution per the specifications within the ordinance. The district must agree to pay for the required nexus study. There has to be a nexus study done between what they want to do or use the fees for, the capital improvement plan, and what those fees would entail. So they must do a nexus study. It must be reviewed by outside counsel, and those costs must be borne by the fire district and cannot be passed on to developers and as part of the mitigation fee. So once they've put together their capital improvement plan and have the nexus study showing how that relates to the fees, that capital improvement plan, as outlined in the nexus study, must then be approved by the Planning Commission. Once the district performs all its obligation under the ordinance and the nexus study is legally defensible, the county then would follow the procedures of the Fee Act and adopt a resolution imposing the fee. One of the concerns that initially the Assistant County Counsel, David Sirius, had expressed was that not only would this affect Calaveras Consolidated Fire District, it would affect any fire district that would want to impose such a fee. They would have to go through the same process as outlined in the ordinance. And when we were looking to write the ordinance, we thought it would be a simple thing, just look at what other counties do. And we learned that there really weren't an abundance of counties that actually have fire mitigation impact fees. In fact, we asked El Dorado County for a copy of theirs, and they said, well, we're in the process of rewriting it. So one of the important things is we don't know what the cost associated with this would be. It will be a significant undertaking, possibly for the county, depending on how many fire districts wish to avail themselves of the fee. Administration of the fire mitigation fees may impact resources and planning in the auditor, controller, and admin offices. The annual fire year accountings is required by law, along with implementation of each fee. Again, may be targets of taxpayer scrutiny, and the fire districts will really need to be able to support their Nexus study and with their capital improvement plan. And one of the big things that was recommended by the counties that had this as we move forward was that adoption of the ordinance will require that all the financial risks to support and defend the fire mitigation fee will be that of the fire district and not of the county.
Okay.
Questions? Shirley, do you know if this particular ordinance was vetted through any other fire districts other than Calaveras Consolidated or the Fire Chief Association of Cal Fire?
It wasn't, actually, it was vetted through county council and the planning department. We did, because it was Consolidated Fire that had asked about it, we forwarded them a copy of the proposed ordinance. But since we had not heard from any of the other fire districts that they were interested in, we had not sent that out to the other fire districts. Basically, from what Assistant District Attorney, County Counsel David Sirius had recommended was the parts of this ordinance really should not be up for negotiation. These are critical not only to protect the fire district by requiring the Nexus study, have it reviewed and certified, have it go through the Planning Commission, and having the responsibility of defending that back on the fire districts and not on the county. He felt were very non-negotiable, that these needed to be maintained to protect everyone.
Any other questions from the board? No? Public comments? Jason, do you want to get up and talk about this?
Morning, Supervisors. My name is Blair Oz. I'm with SCI Consulting Group, and I'm Director of Planning Services for SCI. And we were retained by Calaveras Consolidated Fire Protection District to prepare the Nexus study and the proposed fee program. That fee program was, the Nexus study was prepared, which establishes the legal and policy basis for imposing the fee. And that Nexus study and proposed program was brought before the District Board of Directors and approved in June of 2015. And that resolution also had requested that the County Board of Supervisors consider adoption of that fee program on your behalf. And as working with Ms. Ryan, that there was an indication that the ordinance should be written that would detail the substantive requirements and the procedural requirements for imposing these types of fees, which it does. And it also addresses some other county logistical requirements as well. And so we actually helped the county in preparation to prepare the notice or the ordinance, and we've reviewed it and support it. We find that it's consistent with the substantive and procedural requirements of the Mitigation Fee Act, and the county's requirements are reasonable and not uncommon of other ordinances by other cities and counties throughout the state. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
Question?
Yes.
So are you doing this just for the Calaveras Consolidated District? Have you incorporated any other fire districts in the county or had discussions with CAL FIRE? Is this a duplication? Is this a standalone ordinance?
We would be happy to work with the other districts. The law does require that a Nexus study be prepared for each separate fire protection district. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the work in establishing the ordinance is a big first step, so it'd be a lot less work for the other districts.
Was there any work involved, or was an invitation asked to the Fire Chief Association?
I can answer that. Yes, there was. One of our models is consolidated, identifying duplications in service. When we consolidated both the Jenny Lynn and Foothill Fire Protection Districts and those redundancies. One of the things that I did prior to exploring this opportunity is when we looked at our current fee structure, noticed that they haven't been updated not only in our fire district, but the county in over 2 decades. It was really time to identify this need in not only our district, but throughout the county. So the invitation was sent out when I did some preliminary fact-finding and said, hey, there's an opportunity for us to do some cost sharing to show the value. That time it was declined, and rightfully so, where a lot of this groundwork we're doing, we are setting precedents for other districts to make it a little bit easier for them to move through their process, making the ordinance generic and not identifying Calaveras Consolidated Fire Protection District. That gives them that segue to move forward. But yeah, each study, is based off our capital improvement plan, our needs, and then those formulas are adjusted off of, each specific need for the fire districts.
So right now, no other
as far
fire
as I
districts
know,
involved in this process?
Correct.
Okay.
But we are informing them of the process. Some of them have not, has never gone through this process, so we're kind of the pioneers as far as addressing this need, and because the need is, as development occurs within our county, is our fire districts already taxed enough as far as, or I should say tapped enough for resources. We want to make sure that we do not become outpaced with the development and impacting our district. So this is, more of a proactive approach than reactive. But yeah, and there's many opportunities that we're not only trying to cooperate with other fire districts on this particular piece, but several other arenas as well.
So right now, there's no participation from other fire districts?
Correct.
And does this duplicate the building code requirements and fees that are currently requested?
I don't follow. What was that question?
Sometimes within the building code, there's specific things in here that to me seem to duplicate what is required in the building code, and when somebody's pulling a building permit, they're paying fees associated with that. I didn't know if perhaps this ordinance kind of duplicated some of what the building code already has.
Well, Blair can correct me what I'm wrong, but what I believe is we are reevaluating some of these costs, and what our fees are being collected now through the building department are dated 20 years ago. Since then, our costs have gone up, and they're no longer in alignment with the services that we need to provide.
These are specifically to assist with capital improvement plans for the fire districts. The one that I believe that you're thinking of, Supervisor Ponte, is the $900 fire fee for whether or not somebody wants to build a tank to the specifications that are needed, or pay into the water mitigation fund, the water enhancement mitigation fund, or whatever, water enhancement fund. And that money was used to buy water tenders for those people who are in a fire district, but there's no nearby fire hydrant and there's no other source of water. So we do have the water enhancement fees that go into that water enhancement fund and have been used to purchase water tenders. This is something very separate from that.
It just kind of gives the impression there's duplication. So,
This is not a new fee, correct, Jason? This is an update,
Correct.
and it hasn't been updated in
Over
2 decades. Safe to say over 2 decades. And we're not asking for an ordinance that places a requirement on existing homes. This is on new development and new structures being built, correct?
That is correct, Supervisor. So the fee is just charged on new residential and non-residential construction, in that the fire district is charged with protecting residents of homes and their homes, and businesses and the employees of those businesses. And so as those homes and businesses grow, they need to expand their facilities, their equipment and apparatus to serve the growing community, is essentially the purpose there. So it's not, yeah.
And I just want to clarify, this is a new fee. It is not an update of an old fee. This is a brand-new fee.
I would agree with that, yeah. So it's, I mean, the district has a fee in place, but it's being replaced because there's a whole new fee program that's being brought forward. It's not just an update based upon the assumptions that were of the fee that's currently in place.
This would replace the existing fee.
Right.
So we're not going to have two fees out there.
Correct.
Okay. And but still, it's on new development.
On new development.
So a housing development goes in. This is just an ability to update, you know, I mean, as opposed to something that might have been assessed on 20-year-ago values on current values.
Correct.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so, as any community moves forward, and 20 years ago, quite frankly, the cost of anything, including food, was way less. And so what you're saying here is that this just brings it up to where it should be, so that fire district can operate at the capacity it needs to operate in order to provide the service that quite frankly we require of them.
Correct.
Okay, and so you know, even the cost of equipment alone, you know, is horrendous. So this is capital improvement.
Right. So yeah. So the proceeds from the fee go towards only expansion of the facilities, so the stations or any other associated buildings, apparatus, so fire engines, tenders, and then any associated equipment as well. So it's just for those only.
All right. So I know for a fact in my district, anyhow, it is very difficult for Calco to cover the massive area that they have, just with what they have. If you go down to the Wallace Burson area, you know, there's your response times are suffering. Not to mention the fact that I'm sure that there's some kind of impact on people's insurance policies because of that response time. And so, you know, really, we need to be able to try to solve that issue. I think it's a really good idea to try to solve it on new construction, and for you know, for really a pittance compared to what the cost is of even you know, one extra 5-minute trip. So thanks for bringing this forward.
I got a question.
Yes.
In the Nexus study, have you identified how much your fee is going to be increasing, or how much the fees are going to be increasing?
Yes, and we would bring that forward at the later time if the ordinance does go forward. Then there would be a resolution with the proposed fee program to establish that specific program, and then any of the other fire agencies could do the same, bring forward a Nexus study and proposed program once the ordinance is established.
So the process is do the Nexus study so that they could determine the fees, but that is based on their capital improvement plan that has to be approved by the Planning Commission, and then they would come back to the board with the actual fees.
Thank you. I was just wondering if I thought you said you'd already completed the Nexus study?
Yes, and the proposed fee is $1.01 per square foot for new residential development, and that is in line with fee programs of similar comparable districts across the state. And we prepare a lot of those fee programs. We're actually working in El Dorado County to prepare all of the fee programs for all the fire districts there as well. And I would represent that what you typically find is when you have a fire agency serving, having a fire system, and system being facilities, equipment, and apparatus, and it's serving a much more dense population, you have the existing level of service is much less, and so they typically have lower fees to maintain the existing level of service. Unfortunately, when you get out to more rural communities that have to have a larger fire system because they need more stations and more equipment, more apparatus in a larger geography to have a reasonable response time. You have a larger system but a smaller population, and that tends to have the fee be higher than more urban communities. But I would represent it at $1 per square foot. That's in line with all the other fee programs for similar agencies, some of the ones that are being currently updated in El Dorado County as well.
And how much is that a raise from?
It's significant. It's if I recall correctly, Chief, the current fee is $300 for a unit.
For a unit. So any size.
Right.
And again, I just want to make clear that, yes, their Nexus study has been done. It has not been certified according to the council. So they really have to have an outside council look at it, certify that it conforms to, and the fees are reasonable, and follow the capital improvement plan. That capital improvement plan has to be approved by the Planning Commission. So it's not just, here's a Nexus study that we had done over here, and now we want to charge these fees. There really is a pretty good process to go through to ensure that those fees are valid.
All right, so it's going to come back again.
It is.
Yeah, I just wanted to get an idea of what you saw out there, so people kind of had an idea of what, where we were headed.
Yeah, we'd be happy to bring forward a full presentation on the full program, and we're confident it'll meet the substantive and legal requirements of the Mitigation Fee Act, and we'll certainly make sure that it's in compliance with the proposed ordinance before you this morning.
Okay. Supervisor Olber?
I'm going to ask the question. This is a fee, not a tax, right?
Correct.
I think the voters of this county has a say in what's going to be happening in this issue. I am fortunate in District 3. We have passed the tax, and our fire district runs very well in response time, very well staffed. I think the public should be aware that they have a say in this type of fee or tax, or having the ability to vote on whether they want a tax/fee. That kind of rubs me the wrong way, that the public doesn't have a say in this.
Well, certainly, the board, the district board held a public hearing on the proposed fee program, so took input from the public, and I'm sure when a resolution, if the ordinance is passed, and then the subsequent resolution establishing the district's program went before your board, there'd be a public hearing to take public comment on that as well. But it is not a tax. It is a fee, and the fee is charged on new residential development. So it's and we're just meeting the requirements of law. There isn't really a mechanism for voter approval of development impact fee.
On every citizen.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
This is not a tax. This is not a tax on every citizen. This is only a fee based on new development.
Okay, so if in the Calaveras Consolidated Fire District, if the voters in that district elected to vote on a tax to provide funds for the Calaveras Consolidated, would that be beneficial instead of a fee on new construction? I'm just trying to compare the two.
So really,
when you're talking about apples and oranges, when a tax, say in Ebbets Pass in your fire protection district, in my opinion, is the model that we should have in the county when it's fire-based EMS, that tax goes directly towards the staffing of that firehouse to provide those services and advanced life support to guarantee the response that can address the response time issue. We have the same issues in our district. Our dynamic is we are only a few fire districts in the whole county that does not have a special tax that addresses staffing needs. We rely solely on a couple, I'd say 2 full-time employees, along with myself as full-time. The remaining volunteer, and they receive a stipend. None of us full-time employees receive any type of medical benefit. We receive or retirement. And then our volunteers receive a stipend of, I think it equates to a couple dollars an hour. So that is a separate issue that we are also, as far as our strategic plan moving process, we need to address. We're the busiest fire district in the county. We protect 1/3 of the county's population. And, it's also an area we have to address. But this fee for new development, we need to make sure that when new development comes in for every house, that now spreads the services that we're providing to our existing citizens, spreading it even thinner. 28% of our calls overlap. That means we're servicing one customer 28% of the time when the second 911 call comes in. So we're very busy. That's what, if they're going to come in there and start diluting the services that we're currently providing, this fee will help ensure that they are paying their fair share and that the taxpayers that are currently paying for our services are not, losing out.
To your knowledge, or maybe the board can help me on this, has any proposition been brought forth to the public, the voters in your district, about any type of?
Correct. We have.
And what was the results of that?
The result, we surveyed, I think about 3 years ago. We surveyed as far as what type of services does the community want. We think it's only good manners to ask the public what services they want when it comes to advanced. And it was the way the survey was worded. Some of the people that had a large amount of land, they tested a very high return or tax that they would be imposed on. They had some strong feelings. What we did receive word back for that survey is we need to get out and educate the public, show the benefits. It was also in the height of the fire fee that was just imposed on them, and we've had some opportunities to educate the public that we do not receive any funds for those fire prevention fees directly to us. So there's been a lot of participation, attended community group meetings, was a part of establishing safety committees. So, our public, that's who we work for, is our citizens. So based off of our interaction with them is how we start driving and providing those services.
Okay, so Chief, we never had a ballot issue about if you will, a consolidated fire tax for the area. That's never been put on the ballot for your people?
Not under my...
Has it been ever? Does anybody know?
I believe in the past they've had...
It was discussed at a meeting, but I, with all respect, I still want to draw back to the fact that this is a fee. And right now, we have a fee of $300, if I heard everybody correct. And basically, this fee hasn't been updated in over 2 decades. And it is a fee on new development so that we can continue to support our firefighters anywhere throughout the county that we go to in providing that service to their particular district if they so seek to go to a Nexus study and update it in their district, and they will get what might be a current fee, no different than many of the other fees that are assessed on a new building that aren't taxes either. I mean, the word tax is a very wide and broad term. You could get into all sorts of things that are taxes, but legitimately, this is just a fee. Now, the onus might still be on Cal Consolidated to seek a tax, if that's what they seek to do. And he has brought that up in an open assembly that I attended, and even some of the faces I recognize in the audience attended. And it was at a very infancy stage in presentation. And they may go back to try that again. But this is different than that. Right now, to me, it's not fair to the people who exist in these fire districts when a new home pops up and we have to provide them service based on a fee that was developed over 2 decades ago. And this is an update, no different than something else that's on our agenda. And I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. It's a support of a service provided based on new people coming to our area. And it is critical because we are seeing homes start to being built out. On 26, there's a home development that sat idle for many years that's starting to be built out. And that will further stress Cal Consolidated's efforts to provide service to them. And the Wallace area was mentioned also. When the new homes come up, that's one more potential for a call for them. And we need to have some way to support them in this. And this fee is not the only answer. But I go back to the fact that the onus is on Cal Consolidated for the other part of the answer, not the Board of Supervisors. But this fee will help solve some of their financial need in providing the service to the people who get on the phone and make the call for help.
My concern is, once again, we saw this happen 3 years ago with the state. And I want to make sure that we're not going to fall into that trap where we have the state fire prevention fee for the rural areas, all the way from the Bay Area to the Oregon line. I know this is a fee, but I'm concerned how the public is going to perceive this and deal with it, to be quite honest with you. Chief, you guys are doing a great job. Once again, I'm worried about what the public's going to be thinking about this and how the reaction is going to be.
All right, so I'd like to hear from the public.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Chief.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cameron Todd. I'm a citizen of Valley Springs and a retired California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection Battalion Chief. I'd like to speak on this matter as a citizen of this fire district. There's a few things that I heard that I wasn't going to mention, but have brought questions into my mind. Are we comparing our fees and our people in this county to El Dorado County? I mean, holy cow, talk about a completely different operation there. So if we're basing what the fees are going to go to based on what's going on in El Dorado County, which is a sleeper community to Sacramento, and our hard-working blue-collar workers out here and what we make, apples and oranges is right. That's completely different. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, yeah, it's a new construction fee, and we can think that we're taking it out of the developers' pockets, but we're not. We're taking it out of the pockets of the people that are buying those homes. So that needs to be taken into account whenever you think about this stuff. It's coming out of somebody's wallet that's going to be moving into that house and be a member of our community. In 2014, Calaveras Consolidated Fire District did a survey. They sent out a mailer to everybody in the district asking whether or not they would support additional fees for the fire department needs as they saw them. They hired a consulting firm. The consulting firm handled all of that. They did a presentation to the community in 2014, and they told Calaveras Consolidated Fire Department, Chief Olson, who was there, your community does not support new fees. They do not support this. Don't move forward for 3 years. It has not been 3 years. It's been 2 years. They were told, you need to go out there and do a public relations campaign, explain to the community what it is that you do, get the support before you come forward with anything like this again. And yet here we are. Also, during the meeting and the public presentation, there was overwhelming opposition to new fees and new taxes. The CAL FIRE fee was one of them that everybody was opposed to, but the burden of all of the fees and all of the taxes was clearly stated, even though Chief Olson gave a very good description of the needs of that fire department. What I heard was, we support you. You're doing a great job, but stay within your budget. We don't want to be paying any more fees. We don't want to be paying any more taxes. And that's what this is. And the last item I will say on this is, where is the Calaveras Chiefs Association on this? It is going to impact the entire county. All of your fire departments are going to be impacted by this. They should have approached them first. They should have gotten approval from the community first, and then come forward with this to you. If you have your community support, if you have your other fire chief standing beside you, it should make your vote a lot easier. Thank you.
My name is Vicki Mills. I'm in favor of any way a special fire district can get new funds. Being a former board member on one special district, it is hard to live with what you get from property tax and such. However, I want to clear up something in the definitions of this ordinance, because everybody is saying new development. No, that's not what your ordinance says. Development shall include all projects involving the issuance of a permit for construction, reconstruction, remodeling, and any work requiring any permit under the county code or ordinance of the county. Gentlemen and lady and Debbie, that would be if somebody pulled a permit to do a new roof. You have an existing structure and you're putting on a new roof, and it is not, as long as you put on the same exact roof that you had, there is not an exemption in this ordinance for that. So you have homeowners, not new development, homeowners that are going to get hit with a mitigation fee. If it was just new development, an actual development project, that would be one thing. But with the wording in this definition of development in this ordinance, that is not what we are looking at. Another thing I had a problem with on the definitions. This capital improvement plan has to be adopted and updated annually by the Board of Supervisors, which indicates the approximate location, size, time of availability, and estimated cost of capital improvements. So that means that the Board of Supervisors would have to approve any capital improvement that this district, the district, under this ordinance, would be doing. It wouldn't be the district board approving it. It would have to come back to you annually to approve their capital improvement. I'm sorry, I don't think you should be mixed up in that. It's their district, their board should be the only board that is approving the CIP. And that's it. Thank you.
Good morning. Mike Johnson, Ebbets Pass Fire District. I'd like to say hello to the Board of Supervisors. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm not speaking from a subject matter expert necessarily on this one topic, but as a fire chief, I do support the idea of research into the particular item that's been brought forward today, as far as, to vet it out, just to ensure that our Calaveras fire suppression folks are using the current industry standard for these types of mitigation fees. And if they've been, not updated in 20 years, possibly, just to make sure that we're just in line. Not in line with necessarily, a distant county that doesn't share the exact, demographics as our area, but what's right for Calaveras. And if it's updated and appropriate the way it stands in the fees, then that's great, by an organization like ours. And if it needs some work or look into it, then I think that's a good practice as well, just to make sure that it's within the parameters of what's going on in other places that are, similar to our own. So I look at some things such as pre-fire plans and things that districts need resources for beforehand, before there's an emergency response as well. And sometimes these fire mitigation fees support those types of activities long before emergencies ever needed, as far as a new development or something along those lines. And once again, these are a few things that I put down on my piece of paper this morning. Wasn't something I came prepared to talk about, but just some thoughts that came to my mind. I wanted to share it with all of you this morning. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Peter Reyes from General Inn. I'm fortunate enough to be a member of this fire district. And mark the calendar, I do support the fees because those guys are kind of overstretched. They consolidated because the Wallace area was kind of needing some help. So as far as the principle of it overall, yes, I do support it. And you're not going to hear it from me about giving more money to the government in general. One concern over here that I get suspicious, on 15.08.050B, the county shall charge the district each year for any deficiency of the previous fiscal years. You guys going to charge 2%. I presume it's going to go to the planning department. And if there's deficiency, you're going to go back against the firefighters. I don't like it personally. It's got to be a little bit clearance on that. And if you want to see some costs going up, the next item, you're going to see some cost increases. So any of you folks here, stick around for the next item also. But the firefighters do have elected board. You guys way overloaded, 1,000-page agendas. The district each have elected 5 representatives. Let them earn their keep also. You shouldn't be burdened with it. It's a local fee in this particular area for new development that you're going to be, let's say, suggested from planning department. The planning department going to hit you real hard at the next agenda. I really support this item as a ratepayer and a resident of that district. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kim Olson. I am on the board for Calaveras Consolidated Fire Protection District. And as Mr. Todd referred to me, I was the fire chief when we looked into a possible tax assessment or a tax benefit assessment. And we did. We hired an agency that surveyed our constituents, surveyed our community to see if they would support a tax benefit or a tax assessment. And the majority of the people that were in the room were large property owners that when the survey went out to them, they were asked if they would support a benefit assessment, which equated to sometimes $3,000 a year to them. And we found that out. We said, no way, we would never support that. But the majority of the people in the room were given this survey that blew us out of the water. We didn't know. But the survey was, would you support a benefit assessment or a tax assessment for fire protection? After the meeting, there was about 3 or 4 people that were very upset that came up to me and wrote us a check and said, I'm sorry, we didn't know. We didn't know that your firefighters are getting paid $2 an hour. We didn't know that you don't have any retirement. We didn't know that you don't have any medical. And we didn't know that the last new fire engine you bought was 20 years ago. So we went out into the community as much as we can, educate people, and we've got a lot of support now. I think we're in a lot better position to go for a flat benefit, tax benefit, and hopefully we'll get that on the next ballot. But on this issue, we continually have new subdivisions being built in our jurisdiction. Wallace Lake Estates is one. They have 100+ homes that are going to be going in down there, and we do not have the money to build a fire station. We don't have the finances to spend another $450,000 to $500,000 for a fire engine to go down there. The only way we're going to be able to protect these areas is so when a person does buy that home, they pay an upfront fee so we can build a fire station, so we can buy the fire engine to go in the fire station. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do it. And with ISO, the Insurance Services Agency, when we have a long response time, their insurance rates are going to reflect that. They go to a non-covered area when it's greater than 5 miles and no water. So the people in Wallace Lake Estates are probably going to be paying anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 a year for fire insurance, when we could probably build a fire station down closer to their area, meet the response time criteria, and they save money. So I don't know. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know how we're going to cover the district. I don't know how we're going to cover fire engines if we don't look at areas like this where we can generate revenue. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Tim Runyon, resident in Valley Springs, Wallace, Burson area, somewhere around there. Also on the board for Calco Fire. 32 years public safety, retired battalion chief out of Stockton. And I can tell you, if we don't provide hose, fire engines, axes, we can't do our job. And that's what this is about. This is about being able to give the firefighters the tools to do their job. And the intent of this is basically for new construction, for pulling a permit and being able to finance that equipment. And it's extremely important. And being on the board, it's mostly public safety. People that have retired, we don't get paid much. I think it's about this much. So we took a vote to increase our salary by 3, so we're making 3 zeros. We do it because we love it. We do it because we're committed to our community. But we need your support to be able to move forward on this so we can give the tools and equipment to the firefighters to do the job. A stipend is $70. I think it's $70 for a 24-hour shift for a firefighter. They're doing it for nothing pretty much. That'll pay their fuel and food, and that's about it. So we've got a heck of a commitment from our folks, but we need your help too, and we need to be able to provide the tools. Chief Robitel has done an outstanding job in writing grants. We just got a matching grant for a fire engine. We are getting one that's not going to be 20 years old, finally. Something we need. We're spending tens of thousands of dollars. And as a board, to run a budget with very little money, it's extremely difficult. And yes, this will be a multi-phased approach. We do want to look at a potential flat tax or something in the future. We do want to expand to advanced life care. I've been a paramedic for over 30 years. I can tell you ALS is huge when it comes to survivability. And it's something that we can offer. And we are the busiest fire district in the county. We run the most calls, but we're not the biggest. So please, if we can get your support tonight, I would really appreciate that, and thank you for listening.
Good morning, Mark Jones with My Valley Springs, and I do live in Valley Springs, and these are the people that cover my area where I live. But basically, I just think we need a lot more public outreach on this. I mean, that a lot of people don't know about this. They have had some meetings, but just a lot more stuff. I mean, that's one of myvalleysprings.com's mantra. And I think this whole process will go a lot better if there's a lot more public outreach. They have a couple of meetings, big meetings, community-wide meetings, and just get people informed on it, because people just don't want it like, oh my gosh, I just opened the paper and all of a sudden there's something else I have to pay. They probably just don't understand it. If you explain it to them, they understand it, the outcome could be positive. Thank you.
Rosemary Wilson, McCullum Hill, and just so that people who haven't seen me before, I was one to have lost my house in Mountain Ranch. Seems to me that if it hasn't been increased in 20 years, that someone has been asleep at the wheel. I mean, things go up in price, and it just seems that I don't know what else is going to come before the board that is going to be another reflection on failure to act and leaving things be for 20-odd years, and then there be something that comes up and all of a sudden it's it becomes an issue. I think people should be responsible for that sort of stuff. I'm not even sure what waiving the reading requirements specifically pertain to, but now I've lost my train of thought. The lady that spoke before seems to bring up a very good point. I mean, at one point it's 1.01 or so dollars per square foot of new builds. And the next minute, if it is true what the good lady said, it's going to be additional taxes every time somebody makes improvements to their existing house, which is a lot different. And oftentimes when you make the improvements, they're probably going to be towards a safer house. I mean, if you put replace a shingle shake roof with a tin roof or such, it's likely to be in the direction of making things more fire safe. I'd like clarification as to what this is actually about. Is it about increasing the rates on new builds? Or is it about something that is likely to impact everybody that makes an improvement? And I appreciate Debbie's comments on whether or not the increase is a duplication of other fees. It seems like if you're going to have a fire district to be effective, they're going to need newer equipment, and I'm not against that. Although I do wonder what new fire equipment would have done for my property in the Butte fire. It's a hard one to say, but we really need some clarification so that we can so that you guys can better understand whether it is as Supervisor Kearney said, for new builds, or if it's for existing buildings. And I think that's something that should be available by reading the document, although I haven't had a chance to do that. Thank you.
Colleen Platt, my Valley Springs. Good morning. I want to echo a couple of the other comments from people. It's a long way away. We would have liked to see more public outreach on this and more community education before it came before the board. We were unaware of it until it came on the board agenda. There are a lot of questions to be answered. We did all the research we could in the limited amount of time, and I looked at we wanted to clarify what existing fire fees we already were paying, as Debbie mentioned, and I found the public building department pie chart that tells you where all your fees go, and evidently we're still, new houses are still paying the $900 for the fire tender and the $300 for a fire fee. So we had the similar questions. Is this overriding the $300 on top of it? We also wondered, is the water tender almost paid off? We looked in the budget and it looked like it was, the loan was close to being paid off. So is that fee going to go away anytime soon? So we were asking about that, what are people already paying and what will they be paying when this goes through? So last night I finally found the Nexus study and resolution on Calco Fire's website back last June when they approved it, but I haven't had time to read the whole 30 pages. But it does look to me like there's various fees for various categories. I thought I saw $1.08 per square foot on residential fire fee, and commercial was $1.41 per square foot, and office was $1.71. And I think there was even an agriculture category, but again, I haven't seen that. So for a 2,000 square foot home, if they're paying $300 now, they'll pay $2,160. That would be under this fee cost. So we just think there ought to be a little bit more vetting of this before it goes forward, and evidently it will. It'll have to go through this again, but it would have been helpful for that to have happened already before we got to this point. So more public outreach and more education. Thank you.
Good morning, Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. I just had some, not my topic, but it provoked a couple of thoughts that I had, that I don't mind taxes and fees and assessments as long as they're done in a fair and equitable way, that there's no exemptions for anybody, there's no exceptions, there's no loopholes, there's no poop holes, everybody's in at the same level. Oftentimes we don't see that happening. My question also, is this on new construction, old construction, and is it a one-time fee or is it an annual fee? And if we're talking about new development, is this an assessment that the developer pays, and does he have to pay it up front? Or is this going to be one of these things after the fact, like the Voorhees thing, where they get out of it at the end? Is it the contractor that has to pay this fee when they build the house, or is it the homeowner that buys the house? I think it's real important that it's all out in front. It's not sneaky. There's total transparency, because we've been getting caught short too much, and we have a lot of questions that I think still need to be answered.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Al Segala, Calaveras County Taxpayer Association. We had some pretty good comments on this, and I agree with a lot of what's been said. The taxpayers like to see that connection between cost and benefit. And I think the word is nexus. In other words, if you charge a fee, you should be able to show that that fee is needed, and that it's just not something that comes in for income. It's there for a purpose. Now, we've had some experience over this last year about fire, and there's been more than one person in this county has looked at this experience with the thoughts of not repeating the same mistakes, actually making ourselves more fireproof. Well, that means that some properties are more of a fire danger than others. There's activity on properties that are more dangerous than others as far as fire goes. Okay, if you agree with that, then it follows, if we want to use the nexus, we need to attach the cost to the danger. We need to attach the cost to the danger. How do we do that? Well, it looks like we have to get out of the box and really start thinking about this. We have enough experts that can look at a property and evaluate it on some sort of a scale of A through D or something as far as needing fire protection. We also know that over the last 20 years, the building code has changed. One of the changes that occurs in the building code is to make the properties more fireproof. When properties are more fireproof and less likely to have fires, like sprinklers that they're required to put in now, that means that there's less demand for fire protection. Who would ever have thought that? So we need to take that into consideration. I don't think anyone who would disagree. We do need to pay for our fire protection. And certainly the taxpayers are agreeable to that. But it needs to be well thought out. And there needs to be a real nexus between fire danger and the cost of fire protection. We have ways of using taxes for public improvements in developments or in areas. For instance, in upkeep and paving of roads, the people have voluntarily formed committees, like road committees, and they've taxed themselves to take care of that, and it's been working pretty efficiently for many years now. So it seems in an area we definitely want to have the public involved on any tax or any fee to be assured that it's being done fairly. And it's been said before, and it's one of the times I agree with myvalleysprings.com people, you need to put some thought into this. You need to get more public input so that when you pass a law, it's awful hard to, when you pass a law, it's a bad law and it has bad consequences. Sometimes they don't show up for years. But try to undo something that you did, it's even harder than it is to pass the law to begin with. So we agree that more thought needs to go into this, and then perhaps different solutions will come about. The thing we want to emphasize is there needs to be a connection between fire danger and the cost of fire prevention. If you see that connection, then it becomes obvious that some properties do need to pay more because they're more dangerous.
30 seconds.
Other properties are pretty fireproof. They shouldn't be paying very much at all. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Sitting here in the audience, there were a lot of good comments made. I was a fireman in the Ebbets Pass Fire District for 8 years. I was assigned to the Hathaway Pines Station, and I feel for all the districts, fire districts, because it was a real challenge. This was in 1977 to 1984, and we really struggled to get equipment. One of the things that goes on in this county, also served on the Vallecito Union School District Board of Trustees, and the mitigation fees for new construction were charged to people who were building homes, and those fees were used to provide money for education of our students in the K-8 school of 3 schools of 800 students at that time. And so sitting here listening to this, I started jotting down some of the things that I remember. And with regard to the proposed increase in fees, I think they need to take out, I think Mrs. Mills is absolutely right. The only thing they should have a fee on is the original building permit. All the rest of that, I don't get it. I mean, that's what you do with the mitigation fees for new construction for school mitigation fees. The rest of that, as far as I'm concerned, needs to go away. When I was involved with what was going on the city council in Angels Camp, Angels Oaks was being charged, people that built in Angels Oaks was being charged $400 for a hookup for water and a hookup for sewer. Horn Creek was being charged $800 for water hookup and sewer hookup. And the rest of the incorporated area of Angels Camp, anybody that wanted to build there, was being charged $1,600 for a hookup for water and $1,600 for hookup for sewer. I addressed that issue ad nauseum. Where is the fairness there? So I just believe in fairness. And all of these fire districts, they need help. There's no question about that. And we certainly have an example of that. And I would like to toot my horn for the Consolidated Fire District. They spent probably more time and energy and manpower and woman power on this Butte fire. My hat is off to Jason Robitel. The man has worked day and night to have a strong fire district, and he has a strong cadre of people in his fire district. And so my suggestion is to hold, at a minimum, 3 public hearings in that fire district and get input, record it, write up what it is, and then after that, bring it back to the board
20 seconds.
and share that with the board. Also, it is the largest area for that fire district to cover. And so I think people need to think about that when they're thinking about dealing with the struggle they have for raising money. Thank you very much for your time.
Morning, Marty Crane. First, Diane, thank you so much for making those copies. I don't think everybody got one, but a lot of the answers, I think, are in that document. So thank you for those copies. Just a quick heads up on the first page, section 2, 2B, line 2, there's typos. That's all. And then also, I wanted to share that I made some little notes here. The reason that this was done originally is referenced on, I think they're not numbered, like 3 or 4. It says specifically, the legislature passed the Mitigation Fee Act in response to concerns among developers that local agencies were imposing development fees for purposes unrelated to development projects. I think that's important for us all to understand. The nexus that was referenced comes with the fact that the districts have to relate it right back to what they're going to do. And if they don't spend it, it gets refunded. That's all in this document too. It also, when someone spoke earlier and had an issue with the fee, I'm sorry, I'll get to that. It says that, it also says in here that a fee shall not include the costs attributable to existing deficiencies in public facilities, but may include the costs attributable to the increased demand for public facilities reasonably related to the development project. That's the nexus. Then, excuse me one second. Earlier, someone spoke about remodeling and that sort of thing, you know, are we going to have to pay this if we put a new roof on our house? The rest of that sentence that she was reading says, as the same presently exists or may be amended from time to time. So there's code and there's verbiage out there already. So it already exists. So moving on to later in this packet, in this document, it says that there are exemptions, such as a structure which is being reconstructed following damage or destruction by fire or other casualty, or the voluntary demolition thereof, provided that the number of structures or the size in such reconstructed structure is no greater than the number of structures or the size of the prior structure to such damage, destruction, or demolition. So replacing it, what was already there, there's no charge for that. Also, I'd like to know hoping that Jason or Chief Robitel can explain credits for me, because it says that under section 1508110, it says credits for certain development projects. A development project that will replace development that was partially or totally destroyed by fire, flood, earthquake, mudslide, or other casualty or act of God is entitled to a fee credit if the development that was partially or totally destroyed was a lawful use under the county code, including a non-conforming use at the time thereof. It also goes on to say that a credit for such eliminated development or development that was partially or totally destroyed shall be calculated in accordance with the fee schedule set forth in the resolution to be adopted pursuant to this article. So there's a lot of information here that answers, like for the Butte Fire, it sounds to me like they're not going to be paying this fee because they have to rebuild their house. Correct me if I'm wrong. As far as the sleep at the wheel, I do not think that Calaveras Consolidated has ever been asleep at the wheel, at least in the last 10, 15 years that I've been involved with them for a long time, but no. I live in Valley Springs, Rancho. If you live near the county line, I suggest that you stay healthy and hope, because we need a fire station, and they're planning one out further, but like was said before, we don't have the money for it yet.
30 seconds.
So we all know that we should financially support those who, at a moment's notice, will risk their lives to save ours and run into our burning homes just to save the home or make sure we're not there. And that would also include our fire and sheriffs. So we have to do this. We need to get it right, and I applaud them. As I understand, they've been out talking to all different groups and had a town hall meeting, and no one came, but maybe if the county puts it out, maybe someone will come. Thank you.
I promised 30 seconds. I'm not sure if you're allowed to come up twice. No?
Not twice.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to request that we take a 5-minute break. All right, so why don't we pick up where we left off? We're still in public comments, if there's any more public comments available. Oh, sorry. All right.